Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tea Time History Chat Live with me, Philippa Lacey Brewell. I hope you're all well. Thank you for joining me. I can see a few of you already here. Love it. Love it. Today, we're going to talk about how the Stuarts ceded to the Hanoverians. So all the kind of important dates, all the important events around that succession from one house to the next occurred around about this time of year. So why not? Let's do it. I hope you are all well. Thank you once again for joining me. I've already said that, but oh well. Thank you, Jamie. I can see I've got a new member on YouTube. That's very kind. You can support me. I'm streaming live on YouTube and Facebook, and you can support me by becoming a member on YouTube or by doing super chats and stars on Facebook. You can join my Patreon, which is patreon.com/British history, where I can give you loads more. So I'm very, very grateful for all the support in any which way that it comes. But on Patreon, I am able to, got some fluff on my mic. I am able to give you back more. The next thing, not quite the next thing happening in Patreon, the next live thing in Patreon is our book club, which is going to be on Helen Carr's book, The Red Prince, John of Gaunt, Duke of Lancaster. So if you're interested in that, that's the 8th of September. If you're a member of my Patreon, you're a member of book club. It's all very cool. So today, I think I might have put in the title, there was an important birth on this day in 1689, and it was a little boy who was born to Princess Anne. And we're going to go into his story and how that led to the Stuarts, the end of the Stuart dynasty, and the beginning of the Hanoverian dynasty. I just want to, so I've given a shout out to Jamie, welcome. To Deborah, good morning. Stroke morning where you are, afternoon where I am. Melissa over there in Cape Cod. Who, that's rather rude. YouTube keeps unsubbing you. So this is a thing. If you love my channel, even if you just remotely like it and do check in from time to time, please do subscribe and click the bell icon to get notifications every time I go live. However, as Melissa has found, it's also worth double checking that that I'm on, when I'm on. Keep in touch with me via other platforms such as Instagram is the one I am most, other than YouTube, is the one I'm most prolific on. Because for some reason people aren't getting the notifications, and as in Melissa's case, actually being actively unsubscribed, which is rather rude. If you have subscribed and Melissa, you are always here, so it's very odd, isn't it? Good morning, Becky. How are you? Okay, and I also must give a shout out, please, to my newest patron over on Patreon, Noah. It's lovely. We've got loads more men coming in, which is great. So to join our really quite nice large family of history lovers over there. Right, so let's get started. My daughter's made my tea today. She doesn't drink tea. It's not bad though. I did have to give step-by-step instructions, which I might do a video on step-by-step instructions on how to make a cup of tea, because I again saw the other day just a horrific post about tea, cold water in a microwave. I'm not sure what's going on there, but I feel like I need to redress the situation. Okay, so this little boy here is Prince William, Duke of Gloucester. He was born on this day, so we're the 24th of July as I speak, and he was born in 1689. He was born to Princess Anne and her husband, Prince George of Denmark. Now, Princess Anne was the daughter of James II. And today, by the way, I hope you love a chart. I hope you love a family tree, because that is basically what I've got for you today. The family trees are, well, I've had fun putting them together this morning. Hopefully you'll enjoy looking at them. So don't worry if you don't know who Anne is and who anyone I mention is. It all will become clear. If you are listening on the podcast, I will do my best to explain it in words. But I do believe you can even watch the podcast on my Substack as well, maybe even on Spotify. So this little boy, he's born to, like I say, Princess Anne and her husband, Prince George of Denmark. Princess Anne, actually, I'm not sure where she gave birth to him, but she resided for quite a time in the cockpit of Whitehall Palace. Anyway, it's something that's just occurred to me. Her sister and her brother-in-law are on the throne at this time as joint monarchs, Mary II and William III. He's born, oh, sorry, I know where he's born. He's born at Hampton Court Palace, and he is christened there a few days later in the Chapel Royal. So if you've ever visited the Chapel Royal at Hampton Court Palace, that is where this little boy was christened. More as it looks now, or maybe as it looks now, as opposed to, Edward Tudor, the son of Henry VIII and Jane Seymour. He was also christened at the Chapel Royal, but it looked a bit different to that point. But anyway, so William is named after his uncle, William of Orange, William III of England. And he also stands in for, as godfather. So he does actually attend the ceremony. Now, William and Mary have been married for quite a few years. I'm sorry, I've actually forgotten to look at when they got married. I'm going to show you where they are in this little. Told you. Oh, you wait. They get even cuter. So, yeah, William and Mary have been married for a while, but I think Mary got pregnant early on in the marriage, and suffers a miscarriage, and she doesn't get pregnant again. So William and Mary have no children. I'll come on to how they are related in a moment. So they do dote on Mary's sister Anne's child, William. He's now second in line to the throne behind his mother. So you have the joint monarchs, Mary and William. After that, in the succession, you have Mary's younger sister, Anne, and then it would have been her son, William. And the joint monarchs, William and Mary, have got, like I said, genuine affection for this kid. He's not just their heir, but they really do enjoy him. And he plays, he goes over to Kensington Palace, where William and Mary are based, where they base themselves from, and he actually plays soldiers with his uncle William. He has little uniforms made for him and his friends. So it's a very nice, cute relationship. He's aware that this little boy should be taking over the throne at some point. Now, tragically, in 1694, Mary dies of smallpox again at Hampton Court Palace, and William is distraught. He never remarries, and so Anne and William are already identified in the succession, but they are the definite succession. And this relationship between the Duke of Gloucester, the little William, and King William continues just before William's 11th birthday, or on the run up to William's 11th birthday. He is granted rooms at Kensington Palace to be nearer to his uncle. In fact, there were the rooms that Mary had used, and they're running up to his 11th birthday, and he has a large celebration at Windsor Castle on his birthday, so the 24th of July 1700. And unfortunately, during the celebrations, the little William is taken ill, and he dies a week later, so only aged 11. Anne, his mother, had what would turn out to be her final pregnancy end the July, so just earlier on in the year, and it had resulted in a stillbirth. Anne's story is a tragic one. She had 17 pregnancies and no surviving children. William was the only child to have survived infancy. And because he gets to his 11th birthday and is actually taken ill on his 11th birthday. Now he'd not actually been a well child. He suffered from something called hydrocephalus, which is sort of water on the brain. And I'm not at all medically trained, so I'm not going to try and explain sort of the implications of that. But it did mean that he had problems, headaches, things like that. His language development had been delayed, so his general education had been delayed, but he did get a good education. Pamela says, yes, 17 children lost. It is absolutely heartbreaking. Anne's story is heartbreaking. She and her husband basically outlived all of their children. And William I'll call him Little William, as I have been for the purposes of this, as opposed to his uncle William. He at the party started to complain of sort of sudden fatigue. After which he developed severe chills and a sore throat. He then went on to develop a severe headache and a fever. He was really, really poorly. Now, possibly one of the most popular treatments at the time was bleeding. His aunt Mary, on her deathbed from smallpox, she's bled. They go for it. But his condition got worse. He developed a rash. He developed diarrhea. 3 physicians came to attend on the boy: Haynes, Gibbons, and Radcliffe. Radcliffe diagnosed scarlet fever. The other 2 thought it was smallpox. Radcliffe had strongly objected to the boy being bled, but his prescription wasn't much better. It was another form of treatment, which was to cause blistering. That wasn't effective either. That caused William a lot of pain. He complained about these blisters, as you would. Now, on the 29th of July, so he's taken ill on the evening of the 24th. On the 29th of July, his health rallies. He sort of loses the headache. His ability to breathe gets better. This raises hopes of a recovery. However, by the evening, he's having convulsions, and it says he's deprived of all his senses, and he died within the early hours, somewhere around 1 a.m. on the 30th of July. So we're in 1700 at this point. July was not a great time, it seems. Linda says, here in the US, William and Mary College, founded in 1693 in Williamsburg, Virginia, is the second oldest college in the US. It was founded by William and Mary. Yeah, that's interesting. So whatever the cause of death, actually, modern physicians, maybe previous ones would have agreed with this as well, I don't know, agree that William would have eventually succumbed to some complication to do with his hydrocephalus at some point. So, but it was a massive family tragedy, personal tragedy. Anne's health collapsed. William was distraught. But politically, of course, this was the succession was now destabilized. Now, I'm going to take a step back and explain how all of these people are related. I can't remember quite how I've done this. Yes. So this slide, and like I say, if you're listening on the podcast, I'm going to explain it. William III and Mary II were in fact first cousins. Charles I had a number of children. Charles II was the Restoration monarch. So Charles I is the one who got his head, he got executed. His head was chopped off outside Banqueting House on Whitehall in 1649. We got the Republican era, and then in 1660, Charles II was brought back to England and the monarchy was restored. And I've got a fantastic interview coming out in August with Alice Hunt, who has just written a book on the Republic. She takes you through it year by year from 1649 through to 1660. The book, by the way, may not even be available in the US because they thought perhaps there was not going to be the interest in that period. So listen to the interview with Alice, because if you can't get hold of the book, let me know and I will push and say, no, people are interested. It's fabulously interesting. Anyway, that interview will be out in August. But sorry, so you get Charles II comes back in 1660. He, despite having many illegitimate children, does not have any legitimate children. So he basically has no legitimate issue. So he is succeeded by his brother James II. Meanwhile, their sister Mary has married William of Orange, another William, sorry, and their son is William. James II has married, this is before he becomes James II, marries a woman called Anne Hyde and has two children, Mary and Anne. So James's first marriage produces the two daughters. His sister's marriage to William of Orange produces a son, William, and James's daughter Mary marries Mary's daughter, son William. That's actually really complicated. I'm so sorry for people on the podcast because they're all called. There's so few names. Basically, William and Mary are first cousins. That's what you need to take away from that. I wonder if that has anything to do with the reproductive issues. Who knows? I don't know, but it means that we have this now, interestingly, okay, so this succession crisis when the 11-year-old William, Duke of Gloucester, dies in 1700. Now, why is this a crisis? Well, that is because there is a legitimate line to the throne, alive and kicking on the continent. I mentioned that James II was married first to a lady called Anne Hyde. His daughters are Mary and Anne from that marriage, who become Mary II, and Anne, the mother of the little boy we've been talking about, is the one who becomes Queen Anne and the final Stuart monarch. But her father, James II, had in fact remarried after the death of their mother and had married a Catholic lady called Mary of Modena. And they had a son. He was born in 1688. He was named James after his father. And this sparked another crisis. I mean, it's a crisis for the ruling classes, let's be frank. And it leads to the so-called Glorious Revolution of 1688, where James II is ousted from power, supposedly abdicates, but really he is made to leave. He has to escape. And he is replaced, I wouldn't say succeeded, he's replaced by his daughter and her husband. So his daughter and his nephew, because remembering they're first cousins and they're married. Lovely. They become joint monarchs. So they have equity of power between them. Neither of them that keen. Mary certainly isn't as keen with the actual power element of it. They cease the touching for the king's evil, which has been an ancient ceremony whereby the monarch would touch sufferers from scrofula, which was supposed to heal them. Anyway, they thought this was all superstitious nonsense. So they're brought in, and the reason is that James II had supposedly converted. I would love to talk to somebody actually a bit more about this. How Catholic Charles II and James II actually possibly were throughout their lives. Charles II is thought to have converted on his deathbed, but again, I feel like he had inclinations toward Catholicism, if not strong inclinations towards Catholicism. I'm thinking he can't be a practicing Catholic unless someone would have noticed, but on his deathbed. But anyway, I think maybe that was his inclination from beforehand. And then James II, though, as before he came to power and as king, is a practicing Catholic. He's married to a practicing Catholic, and then of course they have a son. I did a video on this a couple of months ago about the warming pan conspiracy. This was surrounding the birth of James and how dissenters to his rule decided to spread a rumor, by the way, including his own daughter Anne, spread the rumor that the baby was a changeling, that the baby wasn't actually a boy at all. He was born a girl, or he was born and substituted, or he was born dead and substituted. But either way, that this boy wasn't real, or the pregnancy indeed wasn't real. She'd never even been pregnant, and they pretended and brought in a boy, all to try and take England and Scotland back to Catholicism. So that's what precipitated the Glorious Revolution, forced James II off the throne, and he and his wife and their baby son escaped to the continent. This means that there is an alive and kicking alternative, legitimate by blood line in the succession. James, so the young James, the baby James, who actually gets the sobriquet, the old pretender, for when these are the Jacobite rising people. So when he tries to claim the throne, he's called the pretender. And his son is Bonnie Prince Charlie. So either way, they're all there on the continent. Hence there being this sort of crisis, not just in lack of available heirs, but the fact that actually there are some available heirs and they're not wanted because they're of the wrong Christian denomination. So the Act of Settlement was passed in 1701, so the year following Anne's last miscarriage and William, Duke of Gloucester's death. And it was done to prevent the throne passing to a Catholic, so i.e. the descendants of James II. James II James II died in the September of 1701. So, and he and his son, so it prevented it either reverting back to James in the event of William III dying, or his descendants. And so the throne was settled on Sophia, Electress of Hanover, and her heirs after the throne had passed to Anne. Now, it's said quite often that there are 50 people passed over in order to get to Sophia of Hanover. And we did do a History After Dark episode on the Georges last year. And I remember saying then, and I second it now, it would take so much time and work to find out who these 50 are. It might just be easier to show you how close actually, or the lineage that Sophia had. Here's another family tree, everybody. So we're going to go right back to James, well, it's right back to James VI of Scotland, who became James I of England. Two of his children, one was Charles I, and we've already gone through his descendants. That's his children, Charles II and James II. But he also had a daughter called Elizabeth Stuart, and her daughter was Sophia of Hanover. So it is through the female line, but it is quite a close, well, it is a close, legitimate bloodline. And so this is the line they choose because they are of the Protestant religion. So when William III dies in 1702, he is succeeded by his sister-in-law, Anne, who becomes Queen Anne, and she reigns until 1714. Due to this act of settlement in 1701, Anne's designated heir is Sophia of Hanover, and is, despite the fact that Sophia is around about 25, no, 35 something years older than Anne. Sophia is her planned successor. And Sophia only actually dies a few weeks before Anne. Sophia dies on the 8th of June, and Queen Anne dies on the 1st of August, 1714. And therefore, the throne passes to Sophia's son, George, who becomes George I of England, as well as Elector of Hanover, which he already was and already had been for quite a few years, I think. No, was that true? I'm actually wondering whether that's true actually now. Sorry, I thought maybe he had that role for longer. But anyway, right, scrap that. I don't know that bit. But he became the first monarch to ascend to a British combined throne. And of course, he's the first monarch from the House of Hanover. And the House of Hanover also is these are the Georges, so it's also known as the Georgian period. The Georgian period, the House of Hanover, the Hanoverian period, whichever way you want to put it, was wouldn't end until, well, it wouldn't end in blood, it would end in name with the ascendance of Victoria in 1837. The reason that George comes to the throne as the first ascendant to the throne of United Kingdom of Great Britain is that in 1707 the Acts of Union were passed. Now I have a 3-minute explainer video for the Acts of Union on YouTube, which I did a few years ago, and seems to cause a lot of controversy. But effectively, there was an Act of Union read in the Parliament in Scotland and an Act of Union read in England, and both were passed to combine the kingdoms to create the United Kingdom of Great Britain, which again, people like, I've had people argue with me about that. It's on my passport. So there you go. Talk to the government about it. Now, whether it was a fair deal is a completely different matter, because the Parliament was then, as it is now, although we do now have some devolved power, but it was based at Westminster in London. And believe you me, it's not all of England that are particularly happy that they're ruled from London either. So let alone Scotland. So all of these events which lead to the Stuarts handing over to the Hanoverians happen around this time of year. We had the birth of William, Duke of Gloucester, who should have taken the throne had he have been healthy, had he have been lived into adulthood. He was born the 24th of July, so today it would have been his birthday. He was born in 1689. He dies just after his 11th birthday in 1700, and his mother dies on the 1st of August 1714, and that's when we get the switch over to the Hanoverian line, because he obviously he doesn't survive, and tragically, none of Anne's children have. So I hope you've enjoyed the family trees as well. And it's all down to this little boy that the Stuarts didn't continue. Well, just down to him. It's not his fault. His aunt and uncle weren't very good at producing either. And perhaps if his great uncle, is that right? Yeah, Charles II had been able to produce with his wife, and not just his mistresses, would have been the Stuart line may have continued for a little bit longer as well. Where are we? So Melissa says she can't wait for the interview. Honestly, I'm proud of all my interviews. I really am so honoured to be able to speak to the people I speak to, genuinely. We do fairly long form interviews as well, so they tend to be getting on to an hour, if not a bit more. And if you are particularly interested, then there is always an extended version of the interview, as many of you know, over on my Patreon. And if you are a member of my Patreon, then you get to ask my future guests questions. So this might be a good time to tell you that in the next few weeks, I will be requesting questions for Amanda Glover, who has written an article about the love letters of Henry VIII to Anne Boleyn. She's got a different take on it. So I'm going to be interviewing her. So you can submit your questions. I will be asking for questions for her. I'm also going to be, hopefully if I can grab him. But so I might ask for questions, and I'll either get him when I see him at Bosworth, or I will get him after that. But that for Nathan Armine, whose new book, Son of Prophecy, about Henry the Seventh's sort of lineage and like how he got to be recognized as a son of this prophecy that he would become king. How did that come about? That's his book. I've just started it. I can't wait to get through it. So I will be interviewing Nathan soon. I'll also be interviewing some of the team at West Horsley Place, which I covered in quite a bit of detail last week, but I will be having a proper sit down podcast episode with them. And we have others. I've got Matt Brown from Londonist over on Substack, who you may have seen his work. He's colorized some of the maps of London, London as sort of the Tudors would have known it, but also the Stuarts. I'll have more come up, but that's probably quite a few to be getting on with, isn't it? So if you're interested in those topics and you'd like to be able to put your own questions to my guests, then come over to patreon.com/British history. I've kept it as cheap as I can. It's £5 a month. And obviously you can cancel any time. I know that people's circumstances change. Yeah, Melissa, has she read the Vatican letters? Yes, so those are the Vatican letters. Sorry, Melissa. These love letters that the Vatican hold from Henry VIII that was sent to Anne Boleyn. And if you watched last week's episode, I'm going to put something in the newsletter this week as well about it. Anne Boleyn was, in fact, at Hever Castle when she received, I don't know if all of them, but many of them, probably trying to retreat, get away from him, but nope, she doesn't manage it. Melissa says, love your talks with Nathan. Yes, because I do have one or two interviews with him already up on YouTube. So if you haven't seen those, the last one was really, really enjoyable. That wasn't too long ago as well. So I've got quite a few. We've got over 40 interviews now, historian interviews over on YouTube if you're watching on Facebook, or the podcast. Actually, they're on the podcast as well. So yeah, dig in, have fun. I did. this week I am attending 3 talks at the Harvington History Festival. So I will probably write out about those, because for the next 2 weeks I am camping. Apparently, it's been raining today, so but I will. But I shall dig in and make sure. I don't know. I'll manage it somehow. Melissa, does he have a book on the Pretenders? He does. So Nathan's book. Oh, that's right next to my that's next to my bed at the moment. But yes, he's got a book about the Pretenders. So these are the men who claimed to be the princes in the tower who'd gone missing, the nephews of Richard III, sons of Edward IV. So it would have been Edward V and his younger brother Richard. Yes, so Nathan's got a book on that. Right, so I'm going to leave it there. I know it's a short one today. It was because I spent so long putting together family trees. So I hope you appreciated those, and that they helped to try and understand where all these people fit in and how they're actually related. Oh, Becky says you're so lucky to be nearer to the seminars and the talks. I am, but actually also I should mention then, because I had an email from the Gloucester History Festival the other day, and they are, for the first time this autumn, so I think it's I know it's around about the time that I'm on tour, so it's September. I think the History Festival lasts for 2 weeks. You'll have to check the date if you just Google the Gloucester History Festival, but they are streaming the talks live this year. They are £6, so whatever that is where you are. You can watch them. So there are certain talks that I can't make in person, who I will be watching, streamed, except for when I'm on tour, which I can't do. But anyway, there we go. Oh, I must mention Had today is tomorrow. If you follow that, we have had a clash of things. Oh, Becky, I don't actually know. If you have a look on their website, I'm not sure how they're doing it. I think you can do it directly. I'm not sure. Sorry, you'll have to have a look. I need to check it out for myself as well. So which should have been, so History After Dark, which should have been tonight, is tomorrow night. We are covering or discussing the latest in our History Heroes series. PM, excuse me, MP. Well, it wasn't MP, then it was PM, Prime Minister Robert Peel. So we will be discussing him. So that's tomorrow, our normal time, 8:15 PM UK time. But yes, we will be live tomorrow. And then the next 2 weeks, like I say, because I'm away, I'm afraid I have left you again in the hands of Kat and Catherine. So apparently they behaved themselves when I was away last time. I'm not sure. Oh, Deborah and Melissa, thank you very much. I do work hard on these things, but I'm so glad that you enjoy them. It makes it worth it. And the idea, of course, is that all these videos are available forever. So hopefully they do help people. Next week, obviously, I say I'm away. I will try and put out something that is pre-recorded. I have a couple of ideas. It's just a matter of getting the time to record them before I go away. But if I manage it, I will do that. One of them is a walk around of the Tudor rooms at Hever Castle with Kate McCaffrey. So I will do my best to get that out in the next couple of weeks so that I don't leave you without anything. Okay, everyone, have a great day. I will be in touch if you are not already signed up to my Substack. Please do that, because that's where I send my newsletter out from. And I will probably be doing that even if I'm not doing my lives the next couple of weeks. And I can't remember the address for my Substack, so that's really helpful, isn't it? Oh, it's coming up on the screen now. This is very useful. So it's Philippa B. Philippa is PhilippaB .substack.com. So philippab.substack.com. Have a great day, everybody. Hopefully I will see you tomorrow for HAD, and take care. All right. Bye-bye.